After the raid on the Red Gate, Jinwoo stops back by the office and Jinho is in there stressed the fuck out. While Jinwoo was battling gate beasts, Jinho was battling internet trolls. Bro was there all day clapping back at haters and responding to all the complaints on Sung Jinwoo. Jinwoo picked up on it. You know, he's not a man of many words, but he was like, thank you so much for all your hard work. Also, here's a big old bag of treasure for us to start our guild. Let's get to it. Now, Jinho was like, alright, now that we got the money, first and foremost, what are we gonna call ourselves? Suggested the Sung Yo Guild, which basically combines their last names. Even though the Yo Sung Guild sounds a little bit better, he knows he can't put his name before Sung Jinwoo's. Jinwoo already had a name in mind since we know he's great at picking names, and that name is Solo Players Guild, which is such a terrible name. Jinho thought he was joking, but we all know Sung Jinwoo doesn't joke. It's also the problem of them needing another employee. In order to be recognized as a legitimate guild, you need to have at least 2 founding members and 1 additional person. But before they could get too deep into this whole name thing, there was a knock at the door and neither of them were expecting a guest, so they had no clue as to who it was. Much to their surprise, it's Miss Fine Shit herself, Cha Hae-in. What's even more surprising is she's there to sign up for their guild. Jinwoo is completely skeptical. Why would an S-rank hunter of her caliber, who's making great money where she's at, want to come work for a guild that has absolutely no money to offer her? It's like, did Mr. Go put you up to this? Did you get kicked out of your guild? Cause I'm gonna let you know right now, we ain't got no money. And on top of that, she's still under contract with her guild, which means they'd have to pay to break her contract. And again, he ain't got it. Tae said, nah, I'm good, I'm paped up, I'll cover my own contract. So Jinwoo, still taken aback, asks again, why do you want to join the Solo Players Guild? On the outside he looks serious, but deep down inside, this man is completely confused. Then he starts to notice her heart rate elevated, she's avoiding contact, she's looking a little bit, flushed in the face. As if she's trying to keep her cool, but deep down inside slowly losing her shit. We get to see inside of Cha Hae-in's brain for a second. She thinks if he knows why she wants to join the guild, she'll sound insane. Then we see this montage of every moment they've ever shared together. Starting with when she caught handyman Sung Jinwoo sneaking into that gate. It was the first time she realized she was attracted to Sung Jinwoo's scent. And then we see when she woke up and Mr. Go is explaining how he saved her at Jeju Island. Although she was technically unconscious during the rest of the Jeju Island raid, she still could kind of feel what was going on and it felt like it was a dream. But she knew deep down inside he had saved her. Then we the reader got the real answer as to why she was there. She thought to herself, I want you by my side until I draw my last breath. At this point, it's taking her entire being not to just pour out her feelings to this man. Jinwoo was kind of aloof, but also at the same time, I feel like he has a slight feeling as to what's going on. Still think she's up to something, but I think he's slowly coming off of the skepticism and a little bit more like, okay, what's really going on here? This time he tries a different approach. He tells her there's an entrance exam you must pass in order to join our guild. The exam is she must defeat one of his shadows. And not just any shadow. She must defeat the strongest shadow he's able to summon. So he's basically trying to let Shorty down gently by putting her in a situation he knows she can't win in. Cha Hae-in ain't no host. She said, let's get to it. In order to join the guild, Cha Hae-in has to defeat Sung Jinwoo's strongest soldier. She asks him when this exam is supposed to take place and he says, we're gonna do this shit right now. They decide to do it at the Hunter Association Gymnasium. Now the only problem with that is they're pretty far away from that location. There's always shadow exchange for Sung Jinwoo, but he's never used it with another person. So he decides to use this as a test to see if it's even possible. Right as Cha Hae-in is about to walk out the door, Sung Jinwoo grabs her face to chest and initiates shadow exchange. Much to his surprise, it actually worked. Based on the way it's drawn, I don't think he needed to be that close, but I mean, shoot or shoot. Since he's able to use shadow exchange on multiple people, he surmises that it works just like a gate does. The entrance is formed somewhere beneath his feet, and the exit is at the designated destination wherever the shadow is that he's exchanging with. They made it to the gymnasium, but the only problem is Cha Hae-in doesn't have her weapon of choice. Jinwoo got jokes. He was like, oh, you mean that pickaxe, referring to when they ran into each other in that red gate. But since they're technically at the Hunter Association's HQ, there is a huge armory for her to pick any weapon of her choice. Shorty is not playing no games. She went and found herself the biggest long sword she could possibly find. I mean, that thing is almost as tall as she is. So now that she has her weapon of choice, all that's left is for Sung Jinwoo to summon his strongest shadow. As he begins to summon said shadow, you see Egress pop up from behind him. Now we know, and Sung Jinwoo knows, that at this point his strongest shadow is technically Biru. He felt like having her fight Biru would be a little bit too traumatic and distasteful, so he went with Egress instead. And he told her this is his strongest swordsman. Boy, Jinwoo sneaky. Cha Hae asks how the winner will be decided, how's this whole thing gonna go? And Jinwoo just says, the fight will go on until either you destroy my summoned beast or surrender. Cha Hae-in is like, bet, let's run it. Before they begin, Sung Jinwoo has Cha Hae-in turn around while he summons the Demon King's longsword and gives it to Egress. It's funny because I was just glazing how big Cha Hae-in's sword is, and Egress is like twice that size. As soon as he gets the go ahead, Egress launches this massive attack. You know my girl Cha Hae is quick, she sidesteps that thing easy. 2 seconds in, Jinwoo was already glazing her. She's fast just as he expected, and an ordinary person would have died if Egress even grazed them with that attack. We all know for certain there's nothing ordinary about Cha Hae-in. Not only did she parry the attack, but she returned one and kind of pushed Egress back just a little bit. At this point, the energy they're exerting is shaking up the complex to the part where Mr. Go is starting to notice. He has one of his assistants go through the camera logs and see that Sung Jinwoo and Cha Hae-in had entered the building a little bit earlier. First he's like, wait, that's weird, when did 2 of them link up? But then it started to click, all the different moments he saw them together, all the time Cha Hae-in asked about Sung Jinwoo. This is when he earns real brownie points for me as a character. He calls the security team and tells them to shut the cameras off for the rest of the day and let them have their space. W wingman moment right there. The point of view cuts back to the fight and we see Cha Hae-in knock Egress' ass into a wall. This one surprised me a little bit because if you would have asked me before the fight who's stronger between Egress and Cha Hae-in, well at least the shadow version of Egress, I know more will come out later that he's strong as fuck, I would assume Shadow Egress. Now Cha Hae-in starts talking a little spicy. She was like, you told me you were going to summon your strongest shadow soldier and he's not here, so summon him here right now. And Sung Jinwoo's taken aback a little bit because she's clearly referring to Biru, but he's like, how would she know about Biru? Cha Hae responds, and on top of seeing the beast in person, she also watched all the footage from the Jeju Island raid. She's well aware that Biru is now an employee of Sung Jinwoo. While Sung Jinwoo is shocked, he's a warrior himself, so he understands, and you start to see a shadow move behind him as Biru rises from the darkness. Even though Sung Jinwoo agreed to summon Biru, he is a little bit worried. He explains that although shadows do become a little bit weaker once they're extracted, Biru was born and designed to be a human-killing machine. And if you remember in the anime, when he extracted the Ant Queen, the ants under his control began to listen and respond to her. So he's worried there's a possibility Biru could lose control. Before the match begins, he gives Biru the order to defeat her without hurting her. No Biru, he's basically like, yes daddy, whatever you say daddy. Out of nowhere, bro starts yelling at the top of his lungs. Like, I think it was his way of trying to intimidate her, but the shriek was so loud and so powerful that it literally was destroying the light fixtures, glass, everything in the building. Gungo Hee is gonna be pissed when he finds out about this one. He readies himself for battle by pulling out those long ass claws we saw in this fight versus Sung Jinwoo. And Jinwoo was basically like, nah, we not doing that. Put them hoes away. I told you if you hurt her, I'm gonna make life hard for you. At this point, the match had technically started, so while Jinwoo was scolding Biru, Cha Hae-in was like, nah, this is my chance, I'm about to attack. The exact instant she thought that, Biru appeared behind her just like he did in Jeju Island. Last time, he nearly knocked her ass out the arena. This time, she was ready for him. She was not letting herself fall for the same trick twice. She turned around and swung on his ass. Without flinching, without moving a muscle, Biru caught the sword with 2 fingers. Although Biru technically had to open the counter and I don't know if she would have been able to do anything about it, the last thing he wanted to do was go against his master's order and accidentally hurt her, so instead he decided to try to intimidate her. He hoped that she would naturally lose the will to fight if he showed her how much more powerful he is than her. Instead of counterattacking, he pulls her face close and yells from the pit of his being. Side note, I'm not gonna lie, looking at this panel, I wonder how Shadow Bear smells. Not a real body, so is it just like wind or I don't know, y'all let me know. At this point, Jinwoo can already see the writing on the wall and he was like, look, this match is over. It's obvious you're not up to par. He asked her, are you satisfied now? Again, Jinwoo was trying to end this whole fiasco as quickly as possible because he knows Biru is built different. He might be able to speak, he might have intellect, but at the end of the day, he is a killing machine at heart. At the same time, he's allowing this to happen because he trusts Cha Hae-in has a good reason for why she's doing this. But he's really nervous that this could take a wrong turn real quick. Now, while all this is happening, Cha Hae-in is staring Biru down. She got that Saiyan pride for real. She ain't ready to back down from nothing. The fact that she was staring him down offended Biru because he sees her as a prey and he's the predator. So the fact that the prey has the nerve to stare the predator down like the predator is the prey pissed him the fuck off. It was almost as if a flip switched in Biru's mind. He lunged at Cha Hae-in full speed, parried the attack and prepared to launch her named attack skill sword dance, hoping she can end this all in one strike, gambling all her mana on it. He knows that if she fucks this up, it's over. Lands a direct headshot on Biru called Sword of Light. And as a reader, you're like, yeah, go Cha Hae-in, you got this. And then you see Sung Jinwoo is freaking out like, no. And you're like, oh shit. Then you look at Biru and the aura around him, that flip that switched in his brain, has now been ripped off the wall. And side note, my bad, I know I said it was a headshot earlier, it was definitely more of like a chest spleen shot. And his innate sense that tells him to annihilate any enemy in his way kicked in, with that enemy being Cha Hae-in. And bro started seeing red. He pulled the claws out and everything. He was not playing. Sung Jinwoo yelled stop multiple times, but Biru wasn't hearing none of that. He wanted Shorty's head. Just as he was about to rip her neck off her shoulders, Sung Jinwoo had to physically intervene and calm him down. Once Biru came to his senses, he got back on his knees and was like, my bad, daddy. I'm so sorry, daddy. I'll never do it again, daddy. Sung Jinwoo turned to Cha Hae-in and was like, why are you pushing yourself so hard? There's no need for you to go to these lengths. What's going on? What is the reason you're doing this? Tell me your why. And for a brief instance, Sung Jinwoo dropped the aloof MC trope and got really real with her. Cha Hae-in, are you doing all this because you're interested in me? Cha Hae-in responds, blushing ear to ear, I think so. So the point of view switches to the FBH, the Federal Bureau of Hunters, which is basically like the American version of the Hunters Association. To explain who these people are and what's going on, I have to go back a little bit because the anime skipped over the scene and I'm sure they're going to come back to it in some way, shape, or form because it's really important. Before Jinwoo ventures into the gate at the end of season 2, the FBH tries to recruit him. This guy is the deputy director of the FBH and he offers Sung Jinwoo the opportunity to enhance his abilities. Someone in their organization is able to enhance the abilities of S-rank hunters, and of course this immediately piques Sung Jinwoo's interest. The deputy director takes Sung Jinwoo to meet Miss Norma Selner, who is the person who has these abilities. And the kicker is, she's actually able to do it multiple times. This is how they think they're gonna rope Sung Jinwoo in. Most hunters are thirsty for power, so they offer him one free enhancement thinking he's gonna come back for more. This is pretty much how they recruited Hwang Dong-soo. So Sung Jinwoo accepts the free trial, but things don't go the way they expect. She goes to enhance his power, something crazy happens. First, she's swallowed into an abyss of pitch black darkness, and then she suddenly sees a dark figure staring back at her. This completely freaks her out to the point where they thought Sung Jinwoo did something to her and they drew their firearms. Now, of course, the deputy director was like, y'all, what are y'all doing? This is Sung Jinwoo. Them guns ain't gonna do shit for y'all. De-escalated the situation and sent Mr. Woo on his way. And he asked Miss Norma what happened when she responded, he's a king and a powerful one at that. And when she touched his inner being to enhance his ability, something stared back at her and it wasn't Sung Jinwoo, it was more like an infinite darkness within him. And while she was still struggling to understand the encounter herself, her biggest takeaway is that Sung Jinwoo's powers are limitless. So that's what was skipped in the anime, and now Miss Norma and the deputy director are reporting back to the actual director of the FBH. He read the reports, but he wants to hear what happened from Miss Norma directly. First, they started by explaining that he is a king, that most people with awakened abilities draw their power from a place called the other side. That connection between the person and the other side is what she can sense and enhance. And normally when people are categorized as kings, when she looks into their being, she sees them as a bright orb of light. But with Sung Jinwoo, however, there was no connection to the other side, and when she looked into his eyes, all she saw was darkness staring back at her. With that being said, she made sure to let him know that that doesn't necessarily mean Sung Jinwoo is good or bad, she's just telling where his powers originate. Unlike every other hunter, Sung Jinwoo's power does not come from a connection with the other side. He draws his power from within his own being, which means theoretically there's no limit to his abilities. After hearing her account, the director decides to take them on a field trip to basement level 24, which is basically like our version of Area 51. As he's walking them down to level 24, he tells them the story of Camus the Dragon, also known as the Inextinguishable Flame. Now this calamity was the first ever dungeon break to happen and it wreaked havoc across the United States. It single-handedly took out hundreds of the United States top-ranked hunters, and when they finally defeated it, they found this runestone in Kamish's corpse. The interesting thing is, this runestone can only be activated by a national level mage type hunter, which is something that hasn't been seen yet until Sung Jinwoo. Basically, since Miss Norma's enhancement ability is no longer an effective bargaining chip to get Sung Jinwoo to join them, plan B is to see if Sung Jinwoo will be interested in the runestone from the corpse of a giant dragon. The point of view switches to Sung Jinwoo, who is in the bathroom taking himself into account. He says that since his reawakening, he's gotten stronger, grown a few inches, and gotten in better shape. But is he really all that now? He goes basically in the mirror trying to figure out if he finds shit or not. He even goes and asks his sister if he looks good, and she's like, bro, get the fuck out my face. Then tells her that he plans on forming a guild, and she asks him what the name is gonna be. Tells her solo player 1, she tells him that's ass, how about this? She suggests that he names it the Ajin Guild, which is going forward in Chinese and also her name spelled backwards. Honestly, me personally, I like this much better than solo player 1. Point of view then switches again to Cha Hae-in, who is in bed at the crib freaking the fuck out because she told her crush that she got a crush on him. Although she feels a little bit crazy for feeling the way she does, she's trying to convince herself that it's natural because he did save her life, even if he technically used Mean's powers to do so. And all of a sudden, mentioning Mean unlocked a memory of when he brought her back from the brink of death. And from her perspective, it was like the essence of his being was pulling back the essence of her being from total darkness. And she also remembered that Mean had a message for her to deliver to Sung Jinwoo, and that message being, he needs to be careful of the powers that lie within him. The next chapter begins with Park Jong-soo, the guildmaster of the Knights Guild, discussing a gate that just popped up in their jurisdiction. Although it's not an S-rank gate, it's an extremely high difficulty A-rank gate. Since the Knights Guild doesn't have any S-rank hunters, they're worried that they don't have the manpower to clear the gate, which is a huge problem for them because the gate is smack dab in the middle of their jurisdiction. And since it's not an S-rank gate, if they were to give it up to another guild, they will look kind of weak. One of the members suggests the idea of, instead of collaborating with another guild, How about they collaborate with an individual instead? With that individual, of course, being Sung Jinwoo, who just announced to his team that they're going with the name the Ajin Guild. Now, when a major guild takes on a dungeon, usually the S-rank hunter gets about 10% of the profit. But since Sung Jinwoo's services are such a hot ticket commodity, they offer 20% out the gate. But my boy Sung Jinwoo was like, nah, how about 50? Since he's in the process of creating his own deal, on paper, they want this arrangement to be treated like a guild-to-guild transaction, which means 50-50 splits of the profits. At this point, the Knights Guild's hands are pretty tied, so they're like, alright, whatever we gotta do, let's do it. But since the gate's already been open for a while, they have to start this raid by tomorrow at the latest. The gate is a few hours away in Busan, so they offered to give Sung Jinwoo a ride, but he's like, nah, I actually got plans tonight, I'll see y'all tomorrow. And come to find out, those plans are actually a dinner date with his mother. So the next day comes and the Knights Guild is all set up and ready to take on this gate. The only thing they're waiting on, of course, is Mr. Sung Jinwoo, who's running a little bit late, but thank God he has his handy dandy shadow exchange and he places a shadow on one of the Knights Guild's members. Point of view then switches to two of Jin-Ah's classmates. They're in the process of cleaning out old classrooms until they stumble upon a blue gate. All of a sudden, the gate begins to make strange noise. You can see cracks appearing. And then, out of nowhere, a green arm reaches out and grabs one of the students by the head and crushes it. And then one by one, you start to see these green figures that look a lot like the red orcs that Sung Jinwoo fought earlier in season 2. Apparently, there's a lot more where they came from. One of the green orcs says, I'll start the hunting first, you go and get our brothers, tell them pull up on us. Suddenly, more and more green orcs begin coming out the portal and attacking the students. They say their goal is to take over the castle, and by castle they're referring to Jin-Ah's school. The point of view then switches back to the Knights Guild. Sung Jinwoo is finally pulled up to the gate and he's marveling at how many A-rank hunters they have. As far as Korean guilds go, they actually have more A-rank hunters than most, they just don't have any S-rankers. And of course at this point, Sung Jinwoo is a bona fide celebrity, so everybody's wondering if he's gonna lead the raid. In fact, they're expecting him to. Park Jong-soo, the guild master of the Knights Guild, comes to the front of the line. He's like, hey, I'm gonna be leading this. Sung Jinwoo's just gonna watch our backs. Which disappoints everybody, but hey, he's the leader and he makes the rules. Now that the plans and formations are in place, it's time to enter the gate. Point of view then switches back to Jin-Ah's school, and one of the students is hiding in the bathroom on the phone with the Hunters Association. Alerted them of the perilous situation that's going on in the school, but it doesn't seem like they have somebody that they can readily send right this second. At this point, a good number of students were able to make it out the building. About half of them were still trapped inside various points of the building, and the orcs were blocking off all the exits. With, of course, one of those students being Jin-Ah, the sister of Sung Jinwoo. Green orcs begin to notice that something's up with Jin-Ah. Compared to the rest of the humans, she has this slight glow, and there's also this overwhelming presence next to her. They don't know what to make of that, so they do what any orc would do, which is try to smash it. Just as the first one almost reaches Jin-Ah, shadow guards that Sung Jinwoo placed on her a while ago spring into action, and out you see the red orcs. Them motherfuckers get busy. I mean, bro literally punched on one that attacked Jin-Ah through the roof of the building. If you don't remember, the 3 orcs that are guarding her were the generals of Calgargan. They're not weak by any means. In fact, as a group effort, the Knights Guild were actually able to take them down on their own. The problem is, the two-headed ogre actually has another name it goes by. They're also referred to as gravekeepers because if you encounter them too early in a gate, that means 9 times out of 10 you'll be encountering an undead army pretty soon. Now here's where things get even more interesting. Now this is how they looked when they first appeared to the Knights Guild. However, when they got too close, they stopped and started staggering around and kind of started stumbling backwards a little bit, almost as if they were scared of something. It was to the point where even Jong-so was like, it almost looks like they're being chased by something. Almost as if the closer Sung Jinwoo got, the farther they wanted to back away. But almost in an instant, everything went to shit. Because out of nowhere, Sung Jinwoo started feeling this sense that something is wrong. He sensed that the shadows he placed on his sister were on the move, and the only reason that would happen is if she was in danger. Jinwoo tells Jong-soo that something came up and he has to leave immediately. Jong-soo starts immediately panicking. He's like, bro, you know we can't make it through this dungeon without you. We will literally die if you leave right now. Jinwoo was like, alright, I'm gonna call somebody who's just as reliable as me and everything's gonna be okay. And behind him, you slowly see Biru crawl from his shadow. And everybody starts freaking out again. They're like, bro, that's the ant from the Jeju Island raid that killed literally everybody we sent at him. Jinwoo gives him the order to protect the humans and slaughter the rest. Knights Guild are still kind of freaking out. They're like, dog, we have to raid with this thing? They start begging Sung Jinwoo, don't just leave us with this monster. I guess in a way to make them feel better, he summons 20 of the ant soldiers to work with Biru and tells them everything's gonna be okay, let Biru handle it. Then checks to see how much time he has left on the shadow exchange because remember, he used it to get to the blue gate. According to the timer, he has 1 hour, 42 minutes, and 16 seconds, and that's not gonna work. Bro starts hauling ass back to the entrance of the gate, and on the way out, he sees the undead soldiers kneeling in his presence. Wonders to himself, are they kneeling before him because he's a high-class necromancer, has the ability to command the undead? Which I guess makes sense, right? Hops out the gate, summons Kaizo and tells him to fly as fast as he can.